You're a phytoplankton and you're microscopic but hugely important. How old are you and how long do you expect to live for?
We're talking about days rather than years. An individual cell, we can survive for a couple of days.
There are billions and billions of you in the ocean. How many times can you reproduce in your lifetime?
Each individual within our community will replicate a couple of hundred to 1,000 times, depending on the time of year. Our biggest time of year is in springtime, and this is to do with water circulation and mixing and nutrients with light.
So most other sea creatures eat you, but what do you eat?
We don't eat. We are photosynthesizers. So, as autotrophs, we make our food. We need carbon dioxide, we need water, we need light, and we have chlorophyll. And those are the basic ingredients to make sugars, which is what we use to feed.
What would you say is your greatest achievement?
Us phytoplankton are responsible for the atmosphere that you humans enjoy today. Because of photosynthesis, we have taken all of the carbon dioxide that used to form part of the atmosphere. We have turned that into sugar, and by way of a byproduct, we have produced oxygen, because oxygen is not so important to us. Us phytoplankton actually produce around 51% of the annual oxygen that humans breathe every year. So we are much more important than even all the rainforests of the earth combined. And this is why looking after the oceans and looking after us, phytoplankton, at the base of the food chain is so important going forward.
Yes, how does it make you feel being bottom of the food chain?
It's great. Everything else relies on us. So without us blooming to kick-start the whole food web, there wouldn't be bluefin tuna or dolphins or whales in the area. So we are the cool kids on the block. The others just come wherever we are.
Where in the world would we find you?
Anywhere where there is water, you will find phytoplankton. But I was born in the Straits of Gibraltar, and I was driven in by the Atlantic water into the Alboran gyres, which are very important areas for our phytoplankton communities, because as the ocean moves, it forms huge gyres, and we end up concentrating in those areas, and these become hotspots for wildlife. So the Alboran is a very important area for biodiversity because of us phytoplankton in the region.
So what would happen if you were gone?
I think the world would be a very different place. The world would be an inhospitable place because we take away that carbon dioxide. We remove it from the oceans, and we can lock it up in the sediments below the ocean that we live in for thousands, if not tens of thousands of years. Without us, the oceans would very quickly become an inhospitable place for life and for you on the terrestrial biosphere, because the 51% oxygen that we produce every year would disappear.
Which other sea creature do you admire the most?
I would say the cetaceans, the dolphins and the whales. And the reason why we admire them as a group is that although they are responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of phytoplankton whilst they are feeding, they also form an important part of refertilizing the ocean at the other end. And that is an important source of nutrients for us, from which our populations very quickly recover.
What gets you excited?
Light. We love light. The more light we get, the bigger the party from a phytoplankton perspective.
If you had a message for us, what would it be?
Humans need to remember that however clever you are, that you ultimately form part of the ecosystem which us phytoplankton have driven since the beginning of life on Earth. And you need to remember that you rely on that ecosystem for your own lives. And you need to spend more time looking after that ecosystem because you rely on it for the well being of your own lives.